Look, every day at 3 in the morning, the lady who appears.
As you saw just today, we are going to have a very interesting chapter where, on the one hand, we are going to find out what happened to a person in their house, their paranormal experiences with their family. We'll also discover a very curious incident that occurred to them in the middle of the street outside of it. But in the end, stay, because we are going to listen to a testimony and we are going to see on video something that happens in the La Plata area, a paranormal event that you surely don't know about, and that is really very curious. I would like to know what you think about it. When you finish listening and seeing what I want to show you, you can send me your experience to the WhatsApp that appears on the screen right now. Audio format is required regardless of duration or quantity. Add videos, photos, and anything else you think is relevant to make your story as comprehensive as possible. Then I review all the material and I will be writing to you if there is anything. Friends, now yes, we start with this new paranormal story. Enjoy it. I'm from Buenos Aires and I want to tell you about some of the many paranormal situations that happen in what is now my house, where I live with my family, my wife, and my 3 children. And all this that you're going to hear is not recent, because it all started quite some time ago, even before I lived in this house. I say this because my wife has told me this multiple times. Like her mother, she started dealing with all of this a long time ago. On one occasion, she contacted a person who was a psychic or something similar. And thanks to that, she realized that witchcraft was being done to her. Systematically, it seems, for example, she found in the garden of this very house a buried job. It was an object tied with a ribbon or something similar. But beyond having found this, things never calmed down. And what's more, going a little further back in time, we learned about a marriage that lived in this very home. This couple went through horrible times, but the most marked was trying to have a child for years and never being able to make it happen, for reasons that did not have a clear explanation, at least medically. And it could be a coincidence or not, because when they sold the house and moved, they managed to have a baby without any kind of problems. And all the problems they were going through were solved from one day to the next. The new owners were my in-laws, who, as I told you, also went through very strange moments. And knowing this about the previous marriage, he began to question whether the energies that were bothering, to put it simply, were in the house from long ago or were precisely products of witchcraft. But beyond all this, the idea is to help us put things in context. Today I'm here to tell you what happened to us, those of us who are currently living, between these walls that enclose a mystery and many energies that manifest constantly. When we were dating, at the beginning of our relationship, I had stayed over, but we did it in different rooms. She, on one hand, was in one bedroom, and I was right in the one in front, which was unoccupied. That night something happened to me that surprised and scared me quite a bit. Look, years have passed, and even today I can't forget that moment. I was lying down. I don't remember what time it was, but I turned off the bedside lamp and settled into bed. I was lying on my back, and suddenly I feel that there was a very bright glow in the room. I open my eyes and find that above me, about 40 or 50 centimeters from my face exactly, there was a ball of light floating. It was white, very intense, and the truth is that I didn't understand what that was. It was there no more than 2 or 3 seconds simply, and it disappeared. During that time I remained motionless. I didn't know what to do. When it left, I turned on the nightstand light, checked the entire room, and confirmed that there was no light. Nothing was strange. The window and door were shut. There was no logic in what had happened, but it was just as I tell you, and I kept this to myself. I didn't know how to tell it. I didn't want to look ridiculous with my girlfriend. I thought no one would believe me. They would make fun of me, so it took me years to share it. And I also clarified that it was the only time it happened to me. I never saw this white ball again. And if we move to the present, I tell you that my son is the one who feels things the most. While everyone in the house experiences paranormal events, he specifically told us that he feels, hears, and even sees different entities. Many times he felt it in his room during the night, mainly, although it also happened to him during the day while he was awake. He feels like someone touches his face, touches his back, whispers in one of his ears, or also, something that scared us a lot was that they call him by his name from corners, where there is nothing but darkness. This has been happening for years, and it is so recurrent that my son took it as something natural. He grew up living these kinds of anomalies, and it's understandable that he takes it that way. We feel very uncomfortable with this issue, so it's not like that for us. There are mild moments that generate more than astonishment or surprise, but on the other hand, there are others that generate fear, and yes, that's the thing.
Changes.
Then, well, my daughters also told me that downstairs in the kitchen area there is a large window and that she looks out from the bathroom. It was night from the bathroom to the kitchen, and he sees a woman standing next to the window. A woman all in black. From the shape, he realizes it was a woman. The girl is 11. He couldn't tell me in detail either, but he saw her, he realized what he saw, and says that he started running and she disappeared. He went upstairs because obviously he got scared, he was very frightened. Then also to some of her friends, my daughters, one of the girls who didn't want to come home anymore because of what happened to her. We were going up the stairs, the other stairs, to go upstairs to the room. The friends had come to play, and as she told, someone touched her leg and there was no one behind her.
Now, I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me, something that impressed me a lot. One afternoon I had arrived home. I found that the blinds were down. Something normal, since my children went to school in the morning shift and often they would take a nap, the siesta. The car wasn't there, so I immediately assumed that my wife had gone out for some reason. I entered the house, went straight to the kitchen to put the kettle on to heat for some mates, and it was then when it happened. Something that at first didn't seem strange, but as the seconds passed, it generated a huge unease in me. And now are you going to understand why? I started to hear footsteps above from a person, specifically in our bedroom. Being a wooden floor, you can imagine that the footsteps were heard very, very well. I knew my wife wasn't there, so from below I shouted the names of my 3 children because I didn't know who was there. Since I didn't get any response, I decided to go up. When I got upstairs, I went to my bedroom and there was no one there. Very strange, because that's where the footsteps were heard. I go out and walk to the other rooms to greet my children, but do you know what happened? None of them were there.
Well, when I went down already, like, who says you freeze because you know what just happened and you play dumb as if looking the other way. But it happened.
Another time, the worst thing that ever happened to me took place, not just in this house but in my entire life. We were lying down, it was a totally normal night, I was asleep because this was in the middle of the night. I woke up with a horrible feeling. I felt a very, very strong pain in my chest, and also something unforgettable is that I felt extreme cold also in the chest area. And what can I tell you? The first thing I thought was that it was a heart attack or something similar. This would likely happen to anyone. But the thing was that when I turned in bed looking for a slightly more comfortable position to ease this discomfort, I found that there was a woman next to me. I saw her so clearly and vividly that it's impossible to forget certain details. Her clothes looked worn out or old. It was something impressive. She was extremely thin, skeletal, could I say. Her face was somewhat deformed, and when I look at her more closely, I realize she had no eyes. Her sockets were empty. I'm unsure if it was a dream, hallucination, or something else. But inside me, I was certain that this entity, or whatever it was, in fact, my children had already seen it. At other times, it was responsible for that discomfort I felt, and that woke me up. What I did was close my eyes and turn to the other side, that is, where my wife was. And at that moment, that pain I had went away and all the discomfort disappeared. It took a lot of courage for me to turn around and see if this woman was still there, but luckily she had also disappeared. Looking into all of this, I found that a large part of these similar events may be linked to sleep paralysis. But in my case, the strange thing is that I could move freely. I was alert, conscious in every sense. And what I saw was so clear, so impressive, that I am more than sure that what happened was real. And now I would like to tell you about another event that came to mind, but that did not happen in the house. And it would be very good for me to know if something similar happened to another person, and what do people think about all this.
But at that time, I had a Falcon 68. I was driving in the car with my girlfriend, who is now my wife. We were holding hands, the seat was whole, and I was driving at the same time. As I was passing by halfway down the block, I see a woman who is coming down from the sidewalk to the street. While I'm about to pass, this woman, seeing that I'm coming, doesn't stop and keeps going, so I looked and passed.
Why?
Because I saw through this woman, she was basically a person, a ghost. That's why I ran over her. Let's say I passed over. I realized at that moment that my wife squeezes my hand as if she saw the same thing I did or saw something. Me. I stopped at the corner. When I stopped, I asked her what happened. Did you see a woman?
And how was she dressed?
And she was wearing a blue windbreaker jeans. For this, I tell you, I saw exactly the same. That's why I didn't stop. I realized you saw it because you touched my hand. To this day, my wife and I thought it was my mother-in-law. I don't know why that happened, but well, it's something that happened.
We will now learn about a paranormal event that occurs in the La Plata area, specifically in Berisso, as I mentioned earlier. It's a fact that surely the vast majority are unaware of, and that is really very curious. It was filmed by a police officer, and we are also going to listen to a testimony briefly explaining what all this is about that is happening there and apparently why. The reason why it manifests? Friends, I say goodbye. See you in the next chapter, and now I send a big hug to all. Bye.
Well, I wanted to send you some video files and image here and tell you a little about this situation, right? This paranormal activity. The next video was sent to me by my brother-in-law, a police officer who wishes to remain anonymous for obvious reasons. And well, he was telling me that in the city of Berisso. It turns out that every night, starting at 3 in the morning, this lady appears in such building. He was telling me that this lady committed suicide a few years ago, and since then, she usually appears at 3 in the morning every day. At 3 in the morning, she usually appears in that building.
Thank you.
Every day at 3 in the morning, the lady who wants to jump off the roof appears.
Can you imagine if at some point we see something falling from there?
I can see it there, walk me. Little goat, aren't you coming? Am I going to take out? And
Then appears.
Thank you.